Oh, brothers and sisters in Christ, I want to let you know that we have what? Precious, precious information that when adhered to, it saved lives. Saints, just want to say welcome, welcome, one and all. Welcome to Advanced Protocol, a level 2 training, the entering wedge. Saints, our topic of discussion is the antidote. The antidote. Now, you'd have been through part one, you have been through part two, you heard what Sister White has to say about tobacco, you heard what James White had to say about tobacco, and you heard what pioneers and others had to say. Now, let us put the science before God's children. Amen. Let's go into the science of the topic. As I've said before, saints, I've never used tobacco in any form at all. We use a compound by the name of nicotine, or a nutrient by the name of nicotine, that has a receptor in every cell, every tissue of the human body, that also is found in many food. All of your squashes, all of your melons, all of your cruciferous family, all of your solanase family, and many others out there. Okay, so that's what we use. Remember, saints, vitamin C is not an orange. Vitamin C is a compound that is found in orange, but vitamin C is not an orange. Just like, here, watch this, just like nicotine is not tobacco. Tobacco is not nicotine. Nicotine is a compound that is found in tobacco, just like in cayenne pepper, tomato, peppers, eggplant, Irish potato, dates, and a whole lot more. Amen. So let's go. With that being shared, let us go. We're building. The antidote, the truth about nicotine. The truth about nicotine. The Lord said, if thou wilt diligently hearken to the voice of the Lord thy God, and will do that which is right in his sight, and will give ear to his commandments, and keep all his statutes, I'll put none of these diseases upon thee, which I have brought upon the Egyptians, for I am the Lord that healeth thee. What is disease? We're told in Proverbs 26, verse 2, part B, that the curse causeless shall not come. The what? The curse causeless shall not come. In the book Ministry of Healing, we are told that disease never comes without a cause. What never comes without a cause? Disease never comes without a cause. What is the definition of disease? Does anybody know? Disease is an effort of nature to free the system from conditions that result from the violation of the laws of health. What are the laws of health? Pure air, sunlight, abstemiousness, rest, exercise, proper diet, the use of water, trust in divine power. These are the true remedies. Anything less will be a counterfeit. Oh, by the way, saints, we have a whole Q&A section. Okay, we have a whole Q&A session where as soon as we finish, we stop and we start answering all questions. Amen. We can take questions from last week where we were interrupted and we weren't able to do it. This week on all presentations. So we're going to take questions on all three presentations. Amen. There are many ways of practicing the healing art, but there's only one way that heaven approves. God's remedies are the simple agencies of nature that will not tax or debilitate the system through their powerful properties. Pure air and water, cleanliness, a proper diet, purity of life, and a firm trust in God are the remedies for the want of which thousands are dying. I want to let you know we teach from three perspectives. We teach using the Bible, inspiration, and good science, giving you by far the most balanced teaching in health, healing, and restoration. It says here that God has pledged himself. God has done what? He has pledged himself, put himself up as surety to keep this living machinery in helpful action if the human agent will obey his laws and cooperate with God. When I say obey his laws, which laws are we talking about? The moral law, okay, which is the 10 Commandments, the laws of health, as well as the laws of the mind. When it says cooperate with God, what does that mean? We're going to let the spirit of prophecy interpret itself. It says here that the Lord has provided antidotes. You look up the definition for antidote. Antidote, an agent that counteracts a poison. Okay? The Lord has provided antidotes for disease in simple plans. And these can be used by faith with no denial of faith. For by using the blessing provided by God for our benefit, we are cooperating with him. So how does one cooperate with God? By using the antidotes that are found in the simple plants for diseases. If that's clear, you say amen. It says here, the Lord has given some simple herbs of the field that at times are beneficial. And if every family were educated in how to use these herbs, in case of sickness, much suffering might be prevented and no doctor need be called. These old-fashioned simple herbs used intelligently would have recovered many sick who have died under drug medication. Always study and teach. The use of the simplest remedies and the special blessing of the Lord may be expected to follow the use of these means which are within the reach of the common people. There are many simple herbs which, if our nurses would learn the value of, they could use them in place of drugs and find them very effective. God has provided a remedy for every disease that might afflict us. Satan cannot afflict anyone with any disease for which God has not provided a remedy. Our Creator foresaw the wretched condition of mankind in these days and made provision in nature for all the ills of man. From the pen of inspiration, on August 13th, 1894, Ellen White, 66 years of age, wrote a letter to Stephen Haskell in which she discusses a deep concern for the people who are dying because of the influenza virus. She wrote, throughout New South Wales, this is in Australia, we have been tested and tried with the influenza epidemic. Nearly every family has been afflicted in the cities and country town. Some are now very, very sick. Their lives are hanging in the balance. Those who eat meat, those who eat meat do not recover from the attack as verily as those who do not eat meat. Children do not seem to suffer so much as the adults and the age. Psalms 91 verse 7 says, 1,000 shall fall at thy side, and 10,000, unspecified large number, at thy right hand, but it shall not come nigh thee. Whatever danger there may be, it will not touch the one whose confidence is in God. Under the protection of God, he is safe. This is the conviction that gives man the steady eye of faith in his hour of supreme danger. As religious aggression subverts the liberties of our nation, those who would stand for freedom of conscience will be placed in unfavorable positions. For their own sake, they should, while they have opportunity, become intelligent in regard to disease, its causes, prevention, and cure. The time is fast coming when the controlling power of the labor unions will be very oppressive. Again and again, the Lord has instructed that our people are to take their families away from the cities into the country, where they can raise their own provision. For in the future, the problem of buying and selling will be a very serious one. What is a virus? Saints, I'm going to take my time. I'm going to break this thing down to the nitty gritty. You know, we are told of the coronavirus. So we're going to break this thing down like you have never seen it before. But because you have seen the previous presentation, this presentation will make sense. Okay, the question is asked, what is a virus? We're looking at the Latin definition. Let's go. A poisonous substance or a noxious agent. Come on, saints, work with me. It is derived from the Latin word virus, which means poison or venom. Saints, did you guys know that this is the definition of virus? And do me a favor, don't go to Google. Google's going to lie to you. Go to DuckDuckGo and you see the real definition. Google suppresses information, okay? Google is a part of the agenda. What does etymology mean? What does etymology mean? Saints, this is a key word you need to understand. Etymology, it has to do with the origin and historical development of a linguistic form. So, since basically, with etymology, it goes back and look at the very first time the word was used and what was the original meaning when the word was used for the very first time. As shown by determining its basic elements, earliest known use, and changes in the form and meaning, tracing its transmission from one language to another, identifying its cognates in other languages, and reconstructing its ancestral form where possible. Virus etymology. Virus etymology. We want to see when the word virus was first used, what was the meaning that was given versus what it is today. So let's look. Let's see. Virus etymology, the first known form. Latin virus, Middle Age virus. The term virus was used in the 13th century, watch this, to describe a poisonous substance or a noxious agent. It is derived from the Latin word virus, which means poison or venom. The term was originally used to describe the toxic substances secreted by snakes and other venomous creatures. So, saints, when they said the coronavirus, they were correct. But it is not the way you interpreted it. Okay? Not the way you interpreted it. As a matter of fact, let me share this with you. For those who have not studied this topic, when they did DNA sequencing, okay, on the COVID vaccine, saints, listen to this. There is no mRNA technology in the COVID-19 vaccine. None. It's a lie. The spike protein that was in the COVID-19 vaccine came from cobra and the rabies viruses. Not the way that you and I were instructed. Totally different. Saints, this is Satan's field we're in. This thing, COVID-19, is Satan's ground. Satan doesn't have to tell the truth. Just like Dr. Fauci and everyone else, they can just keep on telling lies. And that's what happened. The whole thing about COVID has been a lie. Okay? But guess what? What we're going to take our time and show you that there were some virologists that were out there, or you can say there were some scientists that were out there, and they said, hey, tell you what, you don't want to tell us what the Wuhan COVID is? So people are saying it's a bat, it's a pangolin, it's all these different things. Tell you what, just like how we can find out who is your daddy, we can find out who is COVID by sequencing it, okay? By doing a DNA testing on the Wuhan COVID. And saints, lo and behold, did you know that they did a DNA testing on the Wuhan COVID? And they found out what the Wuhan COVID was? Saints, it's deep. I have the research here. Did you know that they tested the COVID-19 vaccine and the DNA sequencing on the COVID-19 vaccine? I have the research right here too. And since we're taking our time, we're breaking this thing down. We're not rushing. I'm not rushing to them, taking my time. So we may have to do multiple parts of this because we're going to break this thing down. And saints, and if you understand what I'm about to share with you, you'll understand why nicotine is the antidote. Okay? Saints, that's why many of us have taken this position, but we have never studied it. Saints, Brother Luke took 4 years before I began speaking on the topic. Saints, it's my 6th year on the topic. Okay? Many people, they come with all the different emotions. Sister White said don't use tobacco. Saints, I'm not here endorsing tobacco. We don't recommend tobacco. We're talking nicotine. We're talking the same thing that's found in cayenne pepper that all of us use as Seventh-day Adventists. We're talking the same thing that's found in the cruciferous family. the broccoli, the kale, the cauliflower. That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking nicotine. I'm talking a compound that is found in all these items, and it just so happened that the same compound is found in tobacco. Nicotine is not tobacco, and tobacco is not nicotine. Just like an orange is not vitamin C is not an orange, and an orange is not vitamin C. Vitamin C is a compound that is found in an orange, but vitamin C is not an orange. Vitamin C is found in so many other things. Let's go. What is nicotine? And since allow me, because I'm doing all these slides back to back, so you may see some repeat initially, but then it's all new information, okay? So just allow for the intro, but then you'll see after we go through. Nicotine is a naturally occurring plant alkaloid. It is produced mainly by plants in the nightshade family as a natural defense against insects in natural defense against insects. In human, nicotine binds to the nicotinic acetylcholine receptors in the brain and nervous system, influencing the release of several neurotransmitters, including dopamine, acetylcholine, norepinephrine, and serotonin. Positive effects of nicotine: improve attention, increase alertness and concentration, enhance working memory. Some studies have found improvement in short-term memory and information processing. Faster reaction time can improve speed of responding during certain mental tasks. Increase wakefulness, promotes alertness, and reduce feelings of fatigue. Enhanced acetylcholine signaling supports communication between nerve cells involved in learning and memory. Dopamine release can increase motivation and reward signaling. Norepinephrine release can improve focus and mental performance. Cognitive support. Researchers have studied nicotine as having benefits in conditions involving impaired attention or cognition, including Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's disease, cognitive impairment, ADHD, schizophrenia, and ulcerative colitis. Research is still undergoing to establish nicotine as a standard treatment option. Neuroprotective research, laboratory and epidemiological studies have explored whether nicotine activates pathways that help protect certain neurons from damage. Appetite suppression: nicotine can temporarily reduce appetite, which has contributed to research into body weight regulation. Increased metabolic rate: it can produce increase in energy expenditure. Anti-inflammatory research: nicotine activates the cholinergic anti-inflammatory pathways, which has been investigated for its role in reducing certain inflammatory responses. Improvement in motor function: some studies have explored how nicotine helps to improve aspects of movement in Parkinson's disease. Since we have been able to work with people who have Parkinson's disease, drastic improvement by using the nicotine patch. Alzheimer's, multiple sclerosis, arthritis, since across the board. It's amazing to see how one single compound can have so much medicinal effects. You're gonna start seeing scientific journals from here onward. The surprising truth about nicotine in your food. Did you know that some of the foods you eat every day contain nicotine? Yes, that same addictive substance that is found in cigarettes and tobacco products. Now, since it's crazy, right? People talk about nicotine being addictive, right? But yet still, nicotine is breaking addiction. Hey, it's amazing. How can it break addiction and at the same time make you addictive? Okay. Look, I've been using nicotine patches now for over 2 years, and since there are times that I don't even remember to put on a nicotine patch or use a nicotine gum. I don't have an urge. Hey, get up and put on a nicotine. No, sir. The only time I get the urge is if I'm going into public, because of the fact that I know that if I go into public where someone is shedding, they can shed on me and ultimately affect me. So as a result, I wear a nicotine patch. It protects me from individuals shedding on me. And let me share this with you. I don't know if you guys have been keeping track. Right now, we have people who did not take the COVID-19 vaccine are coming down with stage 4 cancer just out of the clear blue sky. They're having diabetes, they're having high blood pressure, uncontrolled diabetes. They're having chronic pain all over their body, can't explain. They're having all kind of health issue. They're getting heart attack, they're getting stroke, and they're eating good, they're doing everything, but yet still they're having these things. And they're wondering, where is this thing coming from? Not understanding that shedding is real. If you're in the presence of someone who is vaccinated, they can affect you. So it is important that you put on a nicotine patch, which is the antidote that prevents you from being affected. Saints, the other day, 2 of our lifestyle teachers at one ministry, they died of cancer. Okay, at one of our ministry. Here, we had a good friend that I know, good young lady, has been in health reform all her life, had a heart attack the other day. We have individuals that are in this ministry for most of their life coming down with Alzheimer's and Parkinson at the same time while at our institution. While they're teaching at the institution, they are coming down with Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease at the same time. Did you know that if you catch COVID and you do not use the antidote for COVID, within 12 to 24 months, you can lose your mind? Do you know that within 12 to 24 months, you can develop Alzheimer's if you don't address COVID properly? Saints, let me tell you something. Folks think that the pandemic is over. Saints, the pandemic has not begun. Saints, you have not seen anything yet. You have not seen anything yet. Six foods you may not have realized that contain nicotine. Aubergine, that's eggplant, potatoes, green tea, black tea, tomatoes, cauliflower, green peppers. Now, since they are listing the ones that have the highest content, but I'm going to show you others that has nicotine in it. It was a nicotine detection. Okay, but they're listing in this research the highest content item, but we're going to list all items, even though it does not have as high of an amount as these that are listed. Foods that naturally contain nicotine. Nicotine is found naturally in several edible plants, although the quantities are lower than that of tobacco. Your eggplant, your peppers, your tomatoes, your cruciferous family, and your Irish potato. You have your chili peppers, your black, green, and white tea, your dates, your cayenne pepper, your bell peppers, your pimento, your ground cherry, your paprika. Medicinal herbs with reported nicotine detection. These have been reported in some analytical studies, but findings are limited. Ashwagandha, black nightshade, bittersweet nightshade, horse nettle, turkey berry, mullein, nettle, spearmint, thyme, parsley, dill, dandelion, chamomile, basil, rosemary, cilantro, turmeric, plantain. Plantain, that is the herb plantain and not the banana plantain. Peppermint, oregano, sage, fennel, ginger. Peppermint, green tea, black tea, coca, coffee, deadly nightshade, Jimison weed, celery, milkweed, bittersweet nightshade, horsetail, field horsetail. Watermelon, pumpkin, zucchini, patty pan squash, bottle gourd, wax gourd, watermelon, butternut squash, yellow squash, cucumber, bitter melon, honeydew melon, acorn squash, crockneck squash, chayote, loofah, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, mustard green, pak choy, radish, kohlrabi, watercress, turnip, Chinese cabbage, turnip greens, kale, cauliflower, cabbage, collard greens, bok choy, arugula, rutabaga, horseradish. The following are found in every cell and every tissue of the human body: nicotine, magnesium, all 14 of them, vitamin D, vitamin B12, and thyroid stimulating hormone. Tobacco versus nicotine. Tobacco is the entire plant. Primarily, Nicotinia tabacum, although other Nicotinia species are also used. The tobacco plant contains nicotine, its primary alkaloid, water, fiber, which is cellulose fiber, protein, and carbohydrates, organic acids, minerals, chlorophyll, and thousands of naturally occurring plant chemicals. When tobacco leaves are cured, fermented, burnt, or processed, many additional chemicals are formed or added depending on the product. Nicotine is one chemical compound found naturally in tobacco and in small amounts in several other plants. It is an alkaloid, meaning a nitrogen-containing plant compound, produced by plants mainly as a defense against insects, is present in highest concentration in tobacco, also found in other foods such as tomatoes, potatoes, eggplants, peppers, and some herbs, although the amount are small compared with that of tobacco. A simple analogy, orange is the whole fruit, vitamin C is one nutrient used in the orange. Likewise, tobacco, the whole plant, nicotine is one naturally occurring compound used inside of that plant. Can nicotine exist without tobacco? The answer is yes. You do not have to get nicotine from tobacco. Okay, saints, you do not have to get nicotine from tobacco. You can get nicotine from any other plant and make your nicotine patch from those. They are nicotine patch that are non-tobacco based. Nicotine can be extracted from tobacco plant. It can be produced synthetically in a laboratory without using tobacco. The nicotine molecule is chemically the same regardless of whether it comes from tobacco or if it is synthesized. So whether or not it comes from cayenne or it comes from broccoli or if it comes from tobacco, the nicotine molecule or the nicotine compound is one and the same. Just like the vitamin C in an orange is the same vitamin C that is found in strawberry. It's the same. It's a compound. Okay? It's one and the same. Key differences: tobacco, a whole plant; nicotine, a single chemical compound. Tobacco contains thousands of natural chemicals. Nicotine, one alkaloid molecule. Tobacco leaves can be dried, cured, or processed. Nicotine can be isolated or synthesized. Tobacco is a source of nicotine. Nicotine, one constituent of tobacco. Tobacco, used in many agricultural and commercial products. Nicotine acts on the nicotinic acetylcholine receptor in the human body. Nicotine, is it addictive? Now, since you see this, the funniest thing is that we have research. We have research that show you that nicotine is not addictive, okay? But yet still, I'm amazed that we as Christians, we're like, oh, nicotine is addictive. And since we have not stopped to study the topic, but we speak on it so freely and yet still have not stopped to, gather the evidence. Let's look at it. Let's look. And let me share something with you. I'm going to show you that during the pandemic, people like you and I died more regularly during the pandemic than the folks who were smoking. And this is why it's important for you to study. That in the event you're witnessing to someone, because we know that a gospel medical missionary work with an emphasis on health is the right arm to the gospel. Okay? So if you're out there ministering to people with the health message, and then someone said to you, hey, what do you think of tobacco? You can automatically know that it's very likely they might be going towards nicotine. And you can say, hey, look, we do not promote the use of tobacco, but we can definitely tell you there's a compound that is found in tobacco that is found in many other food that has tremendous medicinal properties. Like, oh. And then right after get-go, you can neutralize all the nonsense that they were going to say, because they might were going to take you in an area that you're not familiar with, where it has been proven that tobacco is good for something when technically it was the nicotine that was good for it. But if you have understanding, you can neutralize any negative counter and deal with the situation the proper way. Because I'm going to show you the science. The science show that the tobacco smokers did much better during the pandemic than people like you and I. That's scientific fact, and I'm going to show you. Whether or not you accept it or not, the evidence is there. The evidence is there, and you need to look at it so in that way you have a better understanding so you can explain it if you ever encounter someone with that evidence before you. Well, guess what? You know, Dr. Peter McCullough, who is supposed to be doing something later on this year for Dr. Vine, he's going to talk to you about nicotine because he has now added nicotine to his protocol. And if you go to Dr. Vine's presentation that he's going to have, that program he's going to have soon, guess what? Dr. Peter McCullough is one of his key speakers. And Dr. Peter McCullough has now added nicotine to the McCullough protocol because the McCullough protocol on its own was not working. Check it, you see. Check and you see, saints. Nicotine, is it addictive? Harvard Health Publishing. Nicotine addiction explained. Oh, Harvard actually explained it. And we're going to show you how they explained it. Okay, it's going to be right here. We're coming back to it, okay? But before I go to Harvard, I want to explain this. Atrium Health Work. Atrium Health, this is at Wake Forest Baptist. The question is asked, is nicotine addictive? Israeli scientist challenges the findings. June 20 of 2002. Winston-Salem, North Carolina, an Israeli scientist will challenge the widely held belief that nicotine is addictive in a talk on Wednesday, June 26 at Wake Forest University School of Medicine. The speaker, Hanan Frank, PhD, professor of psychology at Tel Aviv University, has written a book, A Critique of Nicotine Addiction, which takes on the findings of the U.S. Surgeon General and the Royal College of Physicians in the United Kingdom. Since the 1988 report of the Surgeon General, the statements that nicotine is as addictive as heroin and cocaine, that cigarettes are efficient nicotine devices delivering hits to the brain within seconds, have become truism, like the statement that water is wet. These statements have largely gone unchallenged. Saints, please forgive me if I'm talking real loud, but it is raining cats and dogs here, so I can't hear anything. All I'm hearing is the loud rain. I hope that you guys are not hearing the loud rain in the background.
We're hearing the...
Are you hearing the rain, Brother Kurt? Okay, let's go. Saints, if you, I hope that you guys are hearing me loud. Saints, I hope that you guys are hearing me loud. Okay, Brother Cook.
Yeah, it's clear. It's clear.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Doc.
Yeah, everything is good on my end. Everything good on my end.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so let's go. Frank argues a critical evaluation of the evidence that the Surgeon General mustered for his conclusion that the evidence that has been accumulating since shows that this evidence is extremely weak and certainly not compelling. Since when last you crave some tomatoes? When last you crave some eggplant? Where you say, hey, look, excuse me for a minute. Let me go and take a tomato break. Let me take a cabbage break. Let's go. It says it's extremely weak and certainly not compelling. In fact, many better control studies show that nicotine is aversive, both to animals and humans. Listen to this, and it limits cigarette smoking rather than maintaining it. Since the fact that we can use nicotine to break addiction, let you know it's a good thing. Since nicotine successfully break the addictive habits of cigarette. Successfully. And then the folks don't get stuck needing nicotine patch. If you know anybody who have stopped smoking, watch and you see, and they no longer wear any nicotine patch. Frank said his presentation would focus on 3 primary addiction criteria proposed by the Surgeon General. Listen to this. In order for something to be addictive, a substance must lead to highly controlled or compulsive use. Listen, have psychoactive effects and result in drug reinforced behavior. Let's go back to the Harvard study now. Watch this. Harvard claims that nicotine alone does not lead to addiction. Says, let me ask you a question. Let me have some fun with you. I'm going to show you some research tonight that they use things like the McCullough Protocol, they use ivermectin, they use hydroxychloroquine, and none of them work for long COVID. And, and listen to this. And they went ahead and used a nicotine patch for individuals that none of these things worked for. And did you know that in as little as about 23 days and less, those long COVID symptoms disappeared completely? These are people who went blind after catching COVID, and within 1 week, they start seeing. These are people who went deaf, and within 1 week of using the nicotine patch, they can hear again. And since I'm going to go through, I'm going to show you. I have the research. I have the information. We're going to show you. Listen to this. A study, okay, saints, watch this. A study of pyrazines in cigarette and how additives might be used to enhance tobacco addiction. Nicotine is known as the drug that is responsible for the addictive behavior of tobacco users. But listen to this, but it has poor reinforcing effects when administered alone. Says this is the science. They're saying they lie. Nothing tall go so. Watch this now. Pyrazines may help to optimize nicotine delivery and dosing and promote addiction through cueing, learned behavior, and or direct effects. Oh, so it's the pyrazines is one of the problems. That's the added additives. Pyrazines and learned behavior. Pyrazine stimulation of the olfactory receptors may enhance learned behavior either by acting alone. Hear that? Pyrazine can act alone or in combination with other sensory modality stimuli. So pyrazines on its own can do that. And then it can combine with others and make it even worse. Such events can reinforce smoking through associative learning and become cues for increased hedonic valence of stimuli and motivate increased desire of wanting or even unrestrained consumption. You see where it comes from? And here's the list. This is on tobacco control on their website where they show you the list. Look at the pyrazines. Look at all the different pyrazines that are in there. Here's where you're getting your addiction from. Pyrazines, a class of chemosensory agent comprised of 15 of the 599 compounds on the list of cigarette ingredients provided by manufacturers to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services in 1994. 8 of the compounds on the list of addictive ingredients provided by manufacturers to the FDA in 2011, and 10 of the compounds presently listed on cigarette manufacturers' websites as cigarette ingredients. The sensory inputs of pyrazines, flavor additives might also provide cues for rewarding related learned behaviors and could play a critical role in the development, maintenance, and relapse of tobacco dependence. The sensory inputs of pyrazine flavor additives might also provide cues for reward-related learned behaviors and could play a critical role in the development, maintenance, and relapse of tobacco dependence. They could increase the attractiveness of smoking, particularly among youth. Substantial evidence exists to suggest that flavor ingredients are used in cigarette starter products, which increases cigarette experimentation and may help establish smoking behaviors that could lead to a lifetime of addiction. This is the first report to document the tobacco industry's incorporation of pyrazine compounds into cigarette since the early 1970s, which appears to contribute to the product's appeal and abuse potential. Effects of pyrazines in cigarette, as described in the industry document, reflect a range of processes by which such non-nicotine constituents might increase tobacco product abuse potential. Pyrazines may act in concert with nicotine either by chemosensory effect that reduce noxious sensations such as irritation in the upper ways and ease nicotine uptake and entry into the lung. They may also act by chemosensory effect that reinforce the alert behavior of smoking, enhance elasticity, and help optimize nicotine dosing to achieve a desired delivery to the brain and satisfy a smoker's need for the drug based on mood and circumstances. Several pyrazine derivatives have also been found to potentiate the 5-HT binding to receptors in the central nervous system, which results in enhanced dopamine release independently of nicotine. Conclusion: cigarette additives and ingredients with chemosensory effects that promote addiction by acting synergistically with nicotine, increasing product appeal, easing smoking initiation, discouraging cessation, or promoting relapse should be regulated by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration. Current models of the tobacco abuse liability could be revised to include more explicit rules with regard to non-nicotine constituents that enhance abuse potential. Saints, you ask yourself the question, how come the focus is on nicotine? If the focus is on nicotine, we should look at it in tomatoes and peppers and eggplant and all this other stuff. Why don't we focus on the pyrazines that are additives that are added? Because pyrazines does not naturally occur in food. Nicotine naturally occurs in food, but not pyrazines. So let's look at the pyrazines. How much nicotine is in one cigarette? This is Medical News Today. The amount of nicotine in a cigarette varies considerably from brand to brand, but a typical cigarette contains 11.9 to 14.5 milligram of nicotine per cigarette. Smokers do not absorb all the nicotine content of the cigarette. On an average, a person only absorbs 1 to 1.5 milligram of nicotine from a single stick. Isn't that amazing, Saints? Look at that. Oh, and Saints, this is one of the reasons why when you see like a nicotine patch, when it says 7 milligrams, Saints, it's actually more than 7 milligrams, but only 7 milligrams of what is in that patch the human body will absorb. So that's where you get your dosing from. So many of the patches, when you see the numbers, know that there's actually more in it, but because your body will never absorb all of it, they only put the absorbable amount on the patch. Can dietary nicotine help to fight Parkinson's disease? Look at this. A number of studies suggest that dietary nicotine might have the ability to slow the progression of Parkinson's disease. Our study is the first to investigate dietary nicotine and the risk of developing Parkinson's disease. Similar to many studies that indicate tobacco use might reduce the risk of Parkinson's, our findings also suggest a protective effect from nicotine or perhaps a similar but less toxic chemical in peppers and tobacco. What was the state planning? Listen good. Here's how we can vaccinate the entire world against COVID. You see, Pope Francis, the world needs more vaccine and less war. We wonder why he made such statement. Look at this. COVID, smoking, and COVID-19. Saints, let's look at some data. Now, Saints, listen good. This is not to advocate anybody smoke. we are just showing you the data and to let you know we're looking at one ingredient, which is also found in tomatoes, peppers, eggplant, Irish potato, and other food. And we're also showing you that that one ingredient can be used independently of smoking. Okay, I want that to be clear, but I just want to show you the data. I want to share the scientific evidence. We know that there are medical doctors on this line right now. There are probably scientists on this line right now. We have so many people observing. Let us show you the data, and you sit back and try and reconcile the information, and you will understand. If you keep an open mind, you'll be amazed to see the information. So let's go. Listen what I said. Is there a smoker's paradox in COVID-19? They say, look, something wrong. Something wrong. I remember we were talking to this young lady out of the UK, and she worked in ICU. She was a nurse in ICU. And she says, you know, Brother Luke, when we were listening to the news and we hear what they were saying, we realized that what they were saying was not true, because it was the unhealthy people, the smokers, them, who were making it out of the ICU. They were the one that was living, and the healthy people was dying. This is what the nurse said. She says, I was in ICU. I was there. I saw it. And her statement lines up with the research. Is there a smoker's paradox in COVID-19? Listen what it says. Although it is well established that cigarette smoking is associated with morbidity and mortality, you know, they say it's associated with death in several respiratory infection, data from recent studies suggests that active smokers are underrepresented among patients with COVID-19. This has led to claims that a smoker's paradox may exist in COVID-19, wherein smokers are protected from infection and severe complications from COVID-19. Saints, this is not me. These are peer review articles. Says, I'm just trying to show you something. These are peer review articles. If you can learn to separate tobacco from nicotine, you will understand what I'm teaching you today. Tobacco is a whole plant. Nicotine is a compound that is found in tobacco and many other plants. Nicotine is not tobacco. Vitamin C is not an orange. Vitamin C is a compound that is found in an orange and many other plants. Says you got to learn to separate tobacco from nicotine. If you do that, you'll receive the healing today. Let's go. Look at this. Not The Economist. Smokers seem less likely than non-smokers to fall ill with COVID-19. Says this is what they're all saying. Listen again. News Medical Life Science. Study shows lower SARS-CoV-2 infection rates in smokers. Look, smoker status, nicotine medication, vaccination, and COVID-19 hospital outcomes. Findings from the COVID EHR cohort at the University of Wisconsin. Saints, look at this. They were finding results. Among current smokers, nicotine replacement therapy prescription was associated with reduced death. Look. And then the conclusion, former but not current smokers hospitalized with COVID-19 are at a higher risk of severe outcomes. And they say nicotine replacement therapy during COVID-19 hospitalization may reduce death of current smokers. So they're like, this thing don't make any sense. The people who we expected to die, they're the one that's living. The stuff don't make sense. What is going on? Saints, they lied. When they told the folks, hey, you better stop smoking, otherwise you're at the greatest risk. Saints, technically speaking, the folks who were smoking that got the nicotine, they had the greatest outcome. Saints, since I began wearing a nicotine patch, I don't get sick anymore. Saints, I don't get sick anymore. Let me tell you something. I caught COVID every single week for the entire pandemic because I didn't like to take oregano oil. I didn't like to drink flu bomb. I didn't like to take a lot of these things. So I caught COVID-19 every single week for the entire pandemic until I began using the nicotine product. Let me share this with you. I had popping in my ear for 2 years. I had popping in my ear. For 2 years, I had a dry cough that I could not get rid of. And since after I start using the nicotine, within 45 days, that dry cough that I had for 2 years completely went away. The popping in my ear that I had for 2 years completely went away. Since, let me tell you something. The other day, a young lady contacted me, and I'm going to address it a little later when I go to the research. She had stage 4 cancer, and she worked with our top gospel medical missionaries that deals with cancer, and her cancer went to stage 4. And since all I did, I put a nicotine patch on the young lady, and do you know that when she went and she did her test, that nicotine patch completely reversed the stage 4 ovarian cancer? I have the research. I have it here. I'm the one who worked with the lady. I have it here. Since I had the lady use a multivitamin, I had to use a digestive enzyme, multivitamin, digestive enzyme, probiotic, and the nicotine patch. And since we reversed stage 4 ovarian cancer, the gentleman who was helping her, that she went to stage 4 and he thought that she was going to die, he came to me and said, Brother Luke, what did you do? And when I explained to him what I did, I said, Sister White says to ascertain the true characteristics of the disease and then go to work intelligently to remove the cause. And I said, listen to me, that lady, listen to me, she's a virgin. She have never had any sexual contact with men. And she came down with stage 4 ovarian cancer. Most of us know that HPV is highly associated with ovarian cancer, but she has never been in any type of relationships like that. What happened with her though, because she's unvaccinated, listen to the things. Every single week during the pandemic, they swabbed her. And according to Johns Hopkins, they said you can swab someone and vaccinate them with terra grippers. The swabbing had terra grippers on them. That's what Johns Hopkins said. Johns Hopkins didn't say the COVID swabbing, but they say you can vaccinate with a swab. That's what Johns Hopkins said. They say you can put terra grippers on the tip of these swabs, and when you go in, it can vaccinate someone. That's what Johns Hopkins said. Not me. You can look up the research. It's there. It's all over the internet. Just put Johns Hopkins terra grippers. TERRAGRIPPERS. Look it up. It is there. That's not Brother Luke. Ask Johns Hopkins. Today, the young lady has reversed her stage 4 ovarian cancer. She's doing amazing. Okay. Says I gotta tell you, you see the family, when I was working with them, like, but look, where's the protocol? I said, look, you've been to everybody. They don't clean you out. They detox you. They flush you. You have nothing in you. You're clean. What a clean out you want? I don't need to clean you. You got clean for a whole year from everybody. I said, come, eat your food. Eat your food. And I put down the nicotine patch. Since the lady was so low because she was at stage 4. Low. I wasn't able to even give her anything else. That's all I gave her. And since, lo and behold, everybody was shocked. The story gets sweeter now because I didn't really tell you all the whole story. Let me add a little bit more. The family, they didn't think that what I had given them was sufficient to reverse the cancer. So after 30 days, they're like, let's leave Brother Luke. And they left. Okay? They left. And they decided they're going to go and do chemotherapy, right? Listen to this. When they went to do the chemo, oh, by the way, I have the documentation. I can stick it up on the PowerPoint right now and show you guys. I have it. I have the document. They sent me a copy of the document to show me, so I can put it up on the PowerPoint and show you guys. Okay. So listen to this. When they, so I worked with them from December 31st to the end of January 31st. And at the end of January, the family decided that they were going to leave because they didn't think they got a substantial protocol from Brother Luke. And says, I had a protocol for them, but you can't give the lady protocol. Listen to me, says, the lady ain't eating. How you gonna give protocol to somebody who ain't eating? you understand? So my goal was get the lady to start eating first. Once she gains strength, we can add supplements. You can't add supplements to somebody who ain't eating. You understand what I'm saying? When you have folks that are sick, real sick, since you can't load them up and say, oh, load them up, you gotta drink your teas, you gotta drink juice. Drink your teas and drink your juice. So since they left. At the end of January, they left like, well, look, thank you, later. So they decided they're gonna go and do chemotherapy. Since when they went to the oncologist says, let me run some tests. We want to see where you're at, that we can go ahead and start you on chemo, radiation, and all that we need to do. Since when the oncologist run the test, the cancer was almost completely reversed within 30 days. Since within 30 days, the stage 4 cancer was almost completely reversed. So listen to this. It says the story gets sweet now. The nurse, when she saw the result, the nurse says, ma'am, you got at least one treatment of the chemo, didn't you? The lady says, no. The doctor said you want to run the test first. You sure you didn't get at least one dose of the chemo? Because since from the day I put the patch on, immediately the cancer stopped. I tell you what, if you guys want to see it, let me know, and I'll put it up on the screen. And I'll go through the presentation, and when I stop, because I'll do it in part 1 and part 2, I'll put the test up on the screen, and I'll show you, as soon as the patch go on, boom, you see the cancer stop, and then all of a sudden it came down. Within 30 days, the cancer was almost zero, nothing, non-existent in the lady's body, just by putting on a nicotine patch. Because during the pandemic, they swabbed her every single week for the entire pandemic. Since you ain't got to take my word, watch the scientific documentation. Allow me to show you the scientific documentation. Don't listen to Brother Luke. If you are one that believes in science, let me show you the scientific reports. And then you can make your decision after you see the scientific reports. But just remember that nicotine and tobacco are two different things. Nicotine is not tobacco. Tobacco is not nicotine. Smokers are less likely to get COVID. French researchers explore whether nicotine might prevent transmission. Oh, Saints, you realize what's happening? It's all the medical journal, every single one of them saying the same thing. Nicotine, nicotine, nicotine. Look at this. This is Frontier. Okay, look at this. Lower rate of daily smokers with symptoms of COVID-19. Amongst inpatient, daily smokers represent 2.2 and 3.4% of the 45 dead patients and of the 29 patients transferred to ICU, respectively. Okay, conclusion, daily smoker rates in patients with symptomatic COVID-19 is lower as compared to French general population. Okay, this is the sweet one. Since this is the sweet one. This is, watch this, April of 2020. This is 1 month after the lockdown. French researcher, they isolated the spike protein gene of COVID-19 virus and they did DNA testing. So guess what they did? They said, hey, nobody wants to tell us really what COVID is? Is it a bat? Is it a pangolin? Is it a bee? What is it? Nobody know? Not a problem. We're going to sequence it. Who is your daddy? So what we did, I should say what they did, they went ahead and the DNA sequencing, they want to know who is the daddy. And since, lo and behold, they found out who is the daddy. Here's the research. You can look it up yourself. Um, they're all scientific journals. There's all scientific research. They, well supported. It says a nicotinic hypothesis. Listen to this. Says you gotta understand how they talk now. They can't talk like me and Like I can say nicotine is the antidote. They can say nicotine is the possible antidote. They can't say nicotine is the antidote. Nicotine is the possible antidote when applied. Says I'm not in this thing that it is or it's not. A nicotinic hypothesis of COVID-19 with preventative and therapeutic implications. Watch this. Look at the top. When they did the DNA sequencing, who is their daddy? They found there was a cobra toxin in the DNA, 3 rabies venom or poison, any which way you want to look at it, bongoro toxin, and then they found there was SARS-CoV-2 spike of both cobra and rabies in the DNA sequencing. So in the DNA sequencing, this is all that they found in the DNA sequence. So it says here, the neurotoxin motifs, amino acid sequence, alignment of the motifs found in toxins from snakes of the cobra, and then that's the crate, the Bongoros genera, that's the red crate, in G from the 3 rabies virus strain, and in the spike, from SARS-CoV-2. So that's what they found in Wuhan COVID. This was Wuhan COVID. Wuhan COVID was venom. Look at the blue. Look at the blue. Listen to what the research said. Nicotine may be suggested as a potential preventive agent against COVID-19 infection. Both the epidemiological and clinical evidence and the in silico findings may suggest that COVID-19 infection is a nicotinic acetylcholine receptor disease that could be prevented and may be controlled by nicotine. Nicotine would then sterically and allosterically compete with the SARS-CoV-2 binding to the nicotinic acetylcholine receptor. This legitimates the use of nicotine as a protective agent against SARS-CoV-2 infection and subsequent deficits in causes in the central nervous system. Thus, in order to prevent the infection and the retropropagation of the virus through the central nervous system, we plan a therapeutic assay against COVID-19 with nicotine patches or other delivery methods in hospital patients and in the general population. Saints, it's not Brother Luke saying it. Saints, these people that did DNA sequencing, they knew what it was. They used the nicotine product and it solved the problem. And that's why they say nicotine may be suggested. Remember I tell you how they talk? They can't talk plain. May be suggested as a potential, listen to this, preventative agent against COVID-19 infection. They said both in the epidemiological and clinical evidence and the in silico findings may suggest that COVID-19 infection is a nicotinic acetylcholine receptor disease that could be prevented and may be controlled by nicotine. Since that's the research. Since when I start drinking oregano oil, we start off with 10 drops. Then we went to 15 drops, then 20, then 30. Since we drink oregano oil till we're mad, and it still wasn't stopping the infection, the COVID-19 infection. Since when I went and put on the nicotine patch, since I don't get COVID anymore, I don't get sick anymore, I don't get any of those problems, and all the issues that I had, the long COVID that I had, from the shedding, from helping people, gone. There are the snakes. There's the cobra. There's the bongoro toxin, the red-headed crate. These are your snakes. Says it makes sense that Satan would do these things. He appeared as a venomous serpent. Says it makes sense. He used venom. Says, when I show you The DNA sequence from the COVID-19 vaccine is going to blow your mind when you see all that the COVID-19 vaccine does. Huh? Says it's going to blow your mind. So we're running out of time. Are we making sense? Look here, in conclusion, we propose and try to justify the hypothesis that the nicotinic acetylcholine receptors play a critical role in the pathophysiology of SARS-CoV-2 infection, and as a consequence propose nicotine and nicotinic orthosteric and allosteric agent as a possible therapy for SARS-CoV-2 infection. Look there, says this one is deep. Interestingly, ivermectin, which has been recently shown to inhibit the replication of SARS-CoV-2 in cells in vitro, is a positive allosteric modulator of the alpha-7 nicotinic acetylcholine receptor. Says ivermectin go through the same pathway as the nicotine. Says, when ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine don't work, we found that nicotine still work. Says that's why when I put my cancer treatments together, it always include a nicotine patch. Okay? Since it doesn't always reverse cancer by using the nicotine patch, but it will prevent people from shedding on the client while we're fighting the cancer. So they're not going to get any sicker while we're reversing the cancer. It will stop the shedding from others from coming in their presence and sharing the technology with them. Listen to this. A study was done of the COVID-19 vaccines, Pfizer and Moderna, to determine the compounds and constituents found inside. Hey, Saints, this section is deep can done. This is deep, 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 deep. But tell you what, I see we only got 10 minutes. I can't go through this in 10 minutes. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to fast forward just a little. I'm going to skip this section and we're picking this up next week. But I want to show you something. This is where I want to do. I want to knock out this quickly within the next few minutes and ask Brother Cook what he has that he wants to share. I want to just talk about this a quick second, and we're going to pause here for today. But saints, listen, you got to support the work. You know what I mean? Sensitive information I'm sharing is a blessing to you. Consider supporting the work that we can continue bring information like this to you. You know, consider supporting the work. Support the work that we can be a blessing to you as you are a blessing to us. Hold a second there, saints. I'm going to break this thing down for you. Clean, clean, clean. Okay, saints, come here. As we get ready to pause for today, let me share some things with you. COVID, the side effects of getting COVID, long haulers, long COVID, there are over 200 plus symptoms and counting. I'm just going to list a few and just share some research with you, and we'll pause right here. So let's go. Are you or anyone you know still suffering with any of these symptoms post-COVID? Chronic fatigue, dizziness, can't take deep breaths, low-grade fever, loss of taste, loss of smell, memory lapse, muscle pain and weakness, diarrhea, vomiting, concentration difficulties, sleep difficulties, mood disorders, headache, chest tightness and pain, heart palpitation, cognitive impairment, motor deficits, exercise intolerance, new onset diabetes, new onset hypertension. Oh, and by the way, as soon as I pause here, I'm going to go ahead and start the recording to do some Q&A. I'll do your Q&A, and then I'll pass it over to Brother Cook. Okay, so let's go. Look at all these symptoms. And watch this, saints. Look, we have the science. We have the research here. Watch this. Nicotine and long haulers. In January of 2023, a study was published by Marco Litsky, which highlights 4 case studies of long hauler COVID patients and their miraculous recovery in just 6 days of using 7 milligram nicotine patches topically. Conclusion of the study, I quote, treating several individuals suffering from post-COVID-19 syndrome with a nicotine patch application, we witness improvement ranging from immediate and substantial to complete remission in a matter of days. And saints, let me share this. These are all people who use things like ivermectin and many of the other known solutions for what we're dealing with today. And nothing worked for these individuals. Most of these individuals had the problem for at least 2 years. Some over 2 years, but most at least 2. And look what happened with just the use of a 7 milligram nicotine patch. Watch this. The research. Is the post-COVID-19 syndrome a severe impairment of acetylcholine orchestrated neuromodulation that responds to nicotine administration? Listen. Case 1, male, 19 years of age. Okay, look at this. What does he have? Okay, it says the thing deep now. The thing deep. He has dizziness, anosmia, loss of sense of smell, agrusia, loss of taste, diarrhea, chest tightness, chest pain, and then you see the red is nicotine patch. Watch this. Orange. Day 1, the man put on the nicotine patch. Day 1, from the very first day he put on the nicotine patch, all of a sudden, by midday, the gentleman starts seeing improvement with the dizziness. Okay, and watch this. By day 9, the dizziness that he suffered with for almost 2 years, gone by day 9. Let's go to anosmia. Okay, let's go to anosmia and let's look what happened with anosmia. Loss of smell. Watch this, loss of smell. That is the yellow. Day 1, nothing happened. By about day 2, midday, he starts seeing improvement. Watch this. By midday, day 16, the loss of smell that they had for almost 2 years is gone permanently. Okay? By midday on the 16th day. Let's go. Agrusia. Loss of sense of taste. Watch this, saints. That's the green line. From day 1, midday, they start having improvement. By midday, day 16, completely gone. Okay? And they were having issues with loss of taste for almost 2 years. Gone by the 16th day, midday, the 16th day, by using a 7 milligrams nicotine patch. Let's go. Diarrhea. Watch this, saints. It's important you understand this. If you understand this chart, it will make sense when you use it or you're explaining it to someone. Watch this. Diarrhea. The very day they put on the patch, the diarrhea stopped. But watch this, saints. On day 3, it come back. And then, watch this. Midday on the 5th day, it went permanently. So you got to let folks know that when you're working with them, right? In about 23 days, everything will be gone. But for the first couple of days, you're going to have a little seesaw. It goes and come, and eventually completely go. So you saw what happened with the little diarrhea. You saw, and we're going to go to chest tightness and pain, and you're going to see something. So the diarrhea went away right away, and it came back. And it stayed for a few days, and it completely went away by midday on the 5th day. Let's go to chest tightness and pain. Watch this, saints, it's deep. The very day they put it on, all the chest tightness and pain disappeared. But watch now, on midday on the 3rd day, it came back. And it stayed until midday on the 6th day. No, it stayed until the 7th day. Okay? And then it was completely gone. So that's something you can tell someone. Hey, listen, until those nicotinic acetylcholine receptors are open, you may have a little seesaw, a little up and down, Sometimes you may feel extremely bad, and then before the complete healing comes. But it shows you here. They say, but Brother Luke, I felt so good when I put on the patch, and then all of a sudden I start feeling bad again. Look, that's how it works. Until the receptors are open, you're going to have these up and down. Just bear with them. That's number one. Look at number two. Case study number two. What's the issue, Saints? What's the issue with the gentleman here? Female. What's the issue with the female here? Look at her issue. Chronic fatigue. She have anosmia, loss of sense of smell, agrusia, loss of sense of taste, memory lapse, concentration difficulties, headache, chest tightness and pain, exercise intolerance. Look at the nicotine patch added. Let's look. What happened? Start at day one. We're starting with the blue. Day one, nothing happened. Now, no. I'm sorry. By midday, day one, you start getting improvement. Watch this now. By the fourth day, midday the fourth day, everything back to normal. No more fatigue. Hey, by midday the fifth day, fatigue back again, gone all the way back up since. You see that? Eventually, midday on the 23rd day, the fatigue is completely gone, completely. Now, let's go to anosmia, the loss of sense of smell. Loss of sense of smell. This is the yellow. Or you can say the orange. Yeah, kind of orange yellow, you know. Let's go. Well, let's call that orange. Let's call it orange because there's another one that can pass as yellow, possibly. Yeah. So anosmia, the loss of sense of smell. Watch this, Saints. On midday, the very first day, midday, when the patch went on, that loss of sense of smell left. That was there for almost 2 years and never came back. Watch the other one now. Let's go to agrusia. That's the loss of taste. By midday, the second day, the loss of sense of taste came back, and that was it. Since you see that? Just by using the nicotine patch. Let's go on to the memory lapse. Look at the memory lapse. Memory lapse, that's the black. Nothing happened until about day 4. Day 4, you start seeing improvement. By midday, day 7, the memory lapse issue was completely gone. Okay? Concentration difficulties. Okay? Concentration difficulties. That's the kind of yellowish one. Yellowish thing. Let's look. Concentration difficulties. First they put on the patch. Improvement came at about midday the 5th day. And it went completely by midday the 7th day. And that was it. Headache. Watch this. Oh, it says headache is deep. Put on the patch. And didn't see any result from the first day. By about the 2nd day, you start seeing result. And since it went back up bad, headache got bad, then it come down on about midday the 8th day. Then it went back bad again. And then eventually on the 13th day, midday the 13th day, the headache was completely gone. Chest tightness and pain. Again, that one, from the first day you put it on, you saw instant improvement. By day 6, it was back, spike, went away, came back again. On the 8th day, went away, and eventually left completely on day 24th. Midday on day 24th, completely left. Exercise intolerance. Okay, exercise intolerance. Let's look here for exercise intolerance. Put on the patch, starting seeing improvement by what? Day 5. And, you know, kind of had a little seesaw up and down, but eventually by day 25, all the exercise intolerance completely left. Okay, that's case number 2. Case number 3. Now, since this case is rather unique, because this remind me of a gentleman that I know personally. Listen to this. A friend of mine came to the health food store and he has COVID. And since he looks so bad, so bad, and he's married and he had a little princess, and I just didn't want anything to happen to him. So I went ahead and gave him some nicotine patches. And since I don't know what was going on with the gentleman, but he said he only used it one time and he recovered. But he says, Brother Luke, it's not the patch. I say, all right, then let me share with you this research if you don't think it's the patch. This gentleman, he heard about the nicotine research. And they told him, hey, they're using a 7 milligrams nicotine patch for the research. And this is how you wear it. This is how you report. He know this guy's into fitness. He figured if they're saying use a 7, because of my athletic ability, I can probably go with a 14. So he decided to use a stronger patch. And he put on the 14 patch. But since you'll find out that if you put on so strong of a dose in the beginning, you're going to have some challenges, which he did. Okay? So guess what happened? He ended up using the patch for one single day. But the one day he used it, he used a 14 milligrams nicotine patch. And he never used the patch again. But watch this. From using the patch one time, and this is the message to my friend who said he only put on the patch one time. Look what the result, look what happened over the next 16 days. Watch this. He had, it says the thing deep, no man, the thing deep, okay? He had issues with chronic fatigue. He has dyspnea, shortness of breath, or difficulty breathing. He had the issue with the loss of smell, loss of taste, muscle pain and weakness, diarrhea, vomiting, sleeping difficulties, headache. Let's go. Let's start with chronic fatigue. Chronic fatigue, day 1, you put on the patch, you start seeing improvement by midday. Once you put on the patch. Watch this change. By the 4th day, the chronic fatigue gone. Remember, it's only one day the man put on the patch for now. When they ask him, he says, look, I don't want to be part of this experiment anymore. That's all right. They say, can you do us a favor then? Can you at least report? He says, okay, I'll report in. They say, you don't have to use the patch again, just report in. So he only used the patch one day. And look this, by day 4, the chronic fatigue that he had for almost 2 years gone. Okay, let's go. Dyspnea, the shortness of breath. Okay, let's look and see what's going on. Shortness of breath, difficulty breathing. The gray, put on the patch. He starts seeing result by day 3. Okay, watch this sense. By about the 9th day, completely gone. That's it. The problem with the shortness of breath, gone. The issue with the loss of smell, let's go with that orange. Orange. Put on the patch. He starts seeing result about the 11th day. Completely gone by day 16. Okay, completely gone by day 16. He wore the patch one day. Loss of taste. That's the green. Start seeing result by day 12. Completely gone by day 16. Muscle pain and weakness. Start seeing result from the 2nd day. He put it on. Completely restored by day 12. Diarrhea. Saw result by midday day 3. Came back with a vengeance. Completely left by day 5. Midday. And that was it. Vomiting. Saw results by midday day 3. Came back again. Completely left by about maybe the 7th day. And that was it. Complete restoration. Sleep difficulty. Saw a result from the very first day he put it on. Came back a little. Completely left by about day 7, day 8. Somewhere around there. Headache. Saw a result from day 1. And completely left by around day 12. And since This gentleman only wore the patch how many times? One single time. Let's go to the last case study. Again, as I said, most of these individuals had their problem for at least 2 years. He had chronic fatigue. He had shortness of breath, difficulty breathing, concentration difficulties, sleep difficulties, mood disorder, chest tightness and pain, and heart palpitation. Okay, watch this, saints. Chronic fatigue, put on the patch from day one. Watch this, saints. Put on the patch, chronic fatigue, and guess what happened? It got worse. Says it got worse. And then by about day 4, it started coming back down. By day 6, it was gone. Okay? You need to tell folks these things. Sometimes they get worse before they get well. And once you share that with individual, you'll find that the things will work good. So let's look at the shortness of breath. Shortness of breath, no change. Absolutely no change until midday on the 4th day. And then by midday on the 7th day, completely restored. Concentration difficulties. Watch this. Began seeing results from day 1 and complete restoration by day 2. Complete restoration by day 2. Sleep difficulties. Saw great improvement by midday day 5, and by day 6, complete restored with sleep difficulties. Mood disorders. Began seeing ingredients by midday day 5, completely restored by midday day 6. Chest tightness and pain. Began seeing improvement by day 6, complete restoration by midday day 7. Heart palpitation. Watch this, saints. Put on the patch, saw a result. It went away completely and came back by midday day 4 and eventually went by midday day 7. Since you see that, it's important to explain these things to people. So in that way, if they ever use the nicotine patch and they see these things, they do not get concerned. Am I making sense, dear saints? Okay, so in each case, signs of exhaustion, such as fatigue, weakness, breathlessness, and exercise intolerance improve rapidly and across the board following the nicotine exposure, at the very least by day 6. In cases with impairment of loss of senses of taste and smell, improvement was observed over a long period, with complete restoration of these senses over anywhere from 13 to 16 days. The study authors addresses concern of addiction to nicotine patches. Transcutaneous administration of nicotine ensures constant serum levels without relevant peak levels. Thus, we did not see any development of nicotine dependence in the context of nicotine patch therapy. From the author's point of view, this is not to be expected. Conclusion: based on the results of this case study, this treatment option used nicotine patches to combat long-haul COVID seems far superior to the time-consuming, often underwhelming, and or disappointment, costly, and complex rehabilitation measures currently available to these patients. Saints, you saw that? Saints, did you guys see that? Amen, amen, amen.